Hello, everyone, and welcome back to discuss about API and today we'll be talking about battle-tested API, tech and business working together. And I think it's quite an interesting topic in 2023 when we are all building and using API to communicate between company, between people on our everyday life, when we move, when we take the bus, the subway, or everything. So API is always a big topic, and thanks for Apidays Paris to have me this year to discuss about that. So just quickly, like in 30 seconds top, just so you know, we are all using API. Some people don't even know what's an API, but are using API. For example, my parents are using like a card to take the bus, the subway. It's using API. Every time you pay with your phone or anything, same, using API. Every time you send a message on Instagram or Twitter, same. We are all using API, even if we don't even know what's an API or not even knowing the word API, basically. But the main issue is every time we are talking about API, when we are talking about that, it's always from a technical point of view. Like people will be talking, oh, my API is using Node.js, or my API is using Python, or I'm building my API and exporting it through using AWS Cloud or Azure, GCP, or some other stuff. So it's always seen as almost a technical prism, that's all. And API are always technical, but it's like most of the time for companies, it's not seen as a business solution. Why? Just because most of the time the business are not even aware what's an API, what the capability of an API, and also I will even say that API are just a mean for them to deliver a new product or a new website. But the API are just seen as a black box. So why can I say that? So I'm Jean Burellier. I'm leading the platform team at Sanofi, and I've been leading multiple platform teams for the past 5 years. And I'm now working at Sanofi, so leading this platform team. I'm also a professor at Superinfo, which is a French university of computer science. And you can find me contributing to multiple open source projects, the biggest one being Node.js, but also, and most of the time, staying around the JavaScript ecosystem and a bit of Rust from time to time. You can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, GitHub, LinkedIn. It's my name, Jean Burellier. You will find me. So yeah, feel free to connect if you have questions or want to discuss any kind of topic linked to API. And let's get back to business. So battle-tested API. What do we want to do? And just basically what's my mindset behind battle-tested API. One good stuff would be, okay, so how can we build good API between tech and business? We could just say, oh, let's sit around the table. Let's draw some nice square. Let's agree on building API. And that's all. Like we could reach this kind of success, or in the best world, it would be nice. Everyone would be happy. Everyone would understand what's an API, and we will be successful in like 5-10 minutes, and that's all. Great. We agree. We want an API to send an email. The business agrees. The business give us money or will pay for it. Great. That would be perfect. Unfortunately, it's not really the case most of the time. So, but let's go back just a bit. Let's discuss quickly what's an API. Then I want to discuss about how can we change the mindset of people, both tech and non-tech, just to work together, and how can we build bridges between those two worlds. So API. Like I said, we all use APIs. Anytime, any day. Every time you are using some computer or smartphone, you will be using API. But it's not just us as humans that are using API. Machines are also consuming data. We are all exchanging information from any kind of pharmaceutical or business API to banking API to geolocation API to everything. So we consume data using application. Like we are not robots. We need an interface to see that. So we use a smartphone, a laptop, tablet, everything and anything. The main issue is for company. Most of the time for company, APIs are unknown. If you go to talk to the business side, to HR, they don't even know what's an API. And API is not seen, like I said, as a product. It's always part of a more global application. Oh, we need a way to create a new user when someone joins the company. Great. We have this way, we have a portal. No one knows how we store this information, how it's go through your browser and the form someone will be filling to being able to get the data after that. So it's always we need an application to create something, to sign PDF, to just send or use a social network, everything like that. And API are always seen and always involve some complexity. But for everyone and for company, basically API, it's always the core of your system. If you remove the API, you will break everything. You can remove, if you you can remove front-end or change one front-end application to another one, it will continue to work. But if you remove the API, your front-end will be just an empty shell with everything. So for example, this is just a basic extract from an HTTP call to the GitHub API to my account, like my GitHub account. So this is just a JSON object, a JSON way to represent it. It's a way to get the data. Most of the people will use this kind of interface showing an image, like having a design and everything. But technically, you could also use like a spreadsheet to be able to say, okay, I'm able to import data into call an API and get the value. Not the nicest way to get information, but technically it's still working and it's a valid way to access information. So that means that I can move from a full constructed front-end application to display some data to a basic spreadsheet with the same data. So just with that, this quick part is API, it's always the core of your company. It's it should be seen as a core product. It is a way to exchange information from people that want to access your information and could generate data to you being able to access information to other people and or other company. Everything else from mobile application, web application, it's always one way to display something. And maybe some people won't even use this way to use it. Okay, so we do have this kind of mindset now that your API should be your core product and not seen as a black box. But how do we convey this kind of message and how do we change the mindset of everyone? Both from the technical part, but also non-technical. So the first one, for me, one of the good principles is API first. API first is the idea to say, oh, my API should be considered as first-class citizen. This is the main way that you build something, which means that you want to build API that are consistent, reusable, and that can interoperate and you can keep for years to come. Maybe with some evolution, you will need to add more feature, but the main idea will stay, I do have a governance around API, or I do have API that I can use across multiple teams. And for that, you will need to establish a contract on how one API is supposed to behave, which means that you won't be writing an API, just jumping into the code and writing something and trying to deploy something, but you will think about, oh, what should be my type, my way to define it, kind of return? Am I handling every kind of error or specific ways? And I think this kind of API also allows companies and people basically to break everything into microservices, so individual and autonomous services. For example, sending an email. You could have one and only one API to send email or SMS, for example, inside your company. You don't need 30 of them or 50 or 60. And most of the big companies today, they do duplicate the same work because people are not building API with this mindset of, oh, we build it once and everyone can use it. So this is also the idea behind a strategy like an API first strategy. You want your organization to think about the specific need, and say, okay, how can we do that as some kind of transversal API that can be reused by my team in France, but also my teams in the US or my teams in Australia, like everyone. And you want those API and those application to be developed and maintained for the years to come across multiple service platform and be accessible. You want to improve security, to work on performance and everything, but you want to have only one way to do one specific operation. You don't want to duplicate. And some benefit, like the main benefit for this kind of API first approach, first parallel development, because when you already have this kind of, let's say an email API, and everyone knows it exists, if you create a new project, you don't need to rebuild it. So you can run multiple projects with the same API. And this also involves cost reduction. Like, you don't have to maintain 30 applications with the same purpose. It also helps you to standardize how your team are working around APIs and a speed to market. One less product to develop, and that can be reused, that's great. And it's always nice to have a better developer experience around that. Just quick way, we can use Open API, which is spec, to define your API. It's based on what we call Swagger before, and now it's becoming part of the Open API specification, and you can use YAML or JSON to work around it. So this is a picture of it, but I also have one page here. So basically, here, let's see, we have just some version, we can change some text. So if you don't want a Swagger pet store, let's say it will be the API day pet store. We can change the description. We can create endpoint. For example, here I do have a path that is a pet path. So let's change. It will now become my pet. And if we check, it's changing here because it's linked. So we have two methods, one here, a pet method, one here, a post method, which was basically those two. And basically this interface lets you just display your data on the left part to something way nicer for people to read. You can see what's the parameter, what's the possible response. So a 200 will be a success. And you have an example. You can have a 400, 445, 444. Like the main idea is to display the contract of your API with everything, which is great because if you work with other team, if I develop an API and I want you to use it, or you want to use my API, I just have to give you this file, and then you know how to use it, what's the expected result, and every information. So yeah, this is great. And the second part, when you are building an API first mindset in a company, would be to create a governance group. You need to have people, like a mixed group of people, both from engineering, business, and you can also involve in sometimes the legal part or IP or some other part of your company, just to be aware, follow, and standardize all API, which means simple stuff. If two people want to create an API that handle user object, for example, you want to have the same object. Basically, with the same name should be the same object. You don't want one team to have a username property where the other team use first name or last name. You want to be coherent between multiple projects and how you build your API. That way, when someone says, oh, I need to pass or to get a user object, it will be always the same. And this group of people, this governance group, should really enforce the compliance and use case of your API, validate every new API, and being able to discover and to discuss, oh, maybe we are missing this new API, maybe some team should work on it. And also to monitor how do we test and how can we improve testing of APIs. And finally, okay, there's a lot of stuff from thinking about API first with Swagger and everything else to work across multiple projects. How can we really build bridges between business and engineering? And it's always the hard part. So one, like I said, we need to open, first part, why do we need to do that? First, for me, bringing new API is one way to have people working across everything and to maybe get more data. Because if more people use your API, you can gather more data. If your company is really segmented, I would say, or segregated or in silos, maybe some people generate multiple set of data that are not being shared. So that's a good way to get more data internally, but also externally. You could technically also try to find a way to monetize your APIs. I'm never a big fan of that, but that's also a way. Basically, that's what Elon Musk on Twitter or X now did. Depending on how many calls you do, you will have to pay more or less depending on the number of requests. And just having API helps you get more new customer in market, because maybe some people, your APIs will fill a need that wasn't solved by traditional means. So you have quite a lot of way to work on that. So this is a good part. And how do we do that? First, I will talk from an engineering part. I'm an engineering lead, so this is the part I know the best. So the main idea is for us to be able to say, okay, we should not hide complexity of API. We should involve the business to say, okay, this will be hard or not. What's the complexity? And also be able to provide value or feedback about success, and most of the part also that we don't really do a lot is being proactive about sharing analytics and observability. Oh, we did build this new API. No one called it, no one used it. Maybe we didn't share the news, maybe people are not aware. Or in the opposite side, oh, everyone using this API, it was solving a need, like some issue everywhere else. So that's a good way to work on that. So we need to provide and to get data on how the API are being used. On the other part from the business, having the engineering part, being involved on thinking about API, not just say, oh, we want this new project, this new front-end application, just to have a technical point of view of what will be needed to be built is always interesting. That's the first part. And the second part, like one of the main topic for me is the business should be present for the testing phases, because I know how my API will behave, but I'm not aware of every way for the business to work or specific edge case on the business. So having people from the business being able to, oh, I know that for this ID or company name, most of the time it's like 8 characters, but because we bought another company like 10 years ago, on this specific use case, if you are working only with French people, it will be 12 or stuff like that. And I think it's also always nice also for the business to learn at least the basic from API. That's, for me, some of the main ideas. And to do that, I think building and writing the spec, the open API spec with the business, it's one good way. So basically, this part is one good way to interact with the business and to have the business and engineering team to work and understand and to share knowledge about the technical part and the business part. It's always nice to have this kind of interconnection and ways of working and ideas about the same product. And it's basically almost two facets. That's always great. And also have the business being involved in the testing phases. And how do we do that? That's the main question. And I won't take a lot of time, but we can use Postman. Postman is a great tool. Every developer uses Postman to test API. It's basically a way you can define how to do your request. You can click on send and you get the result. That's perfect. That's great. But you can also work with the business and there's a lot of stuff, and I will take less than 1 minute, so it will be a quick introduction here. So for example, if you want to write some specific test for your request, you have a way and you can customize that, but Postman give you some base snippet where you can test, oh, I want to have my request to be successful. So the status should be 200, or the response should include Jean Burellier, which is my name. And it gives you result, which is this tab. For example, here, if I run my request again, great, everything good. But if I change that it should include, let's say, Paul Burellier, it say, okay, I failed on this one. I was not able to match this part. So just being able, doing some, even if you see it as basic test, it's a good way to discover some specific edge case and to have the business giving some input. For example, I do have this full item, it's full element. For example, maybe performance can matter. Let's say you want, let's put it in the right place. I want the response time to be lower than 200 here milliseconds. So if I run it now, oh, I forgot to check that. It's right. But let's say we want really powerful and fast API, let's say 20 milliseconds, so it's still matching. Let's say if I want my API to be below 15, now it failed. So maybe if it was something and your target is to have a full API working in less than 15 seconds, maybe with just a simple test, you will be aware about the quality of your API or the performance of your API. And you have a list of other stuff. But you can also improve and write some, I don't even want to say code, because it's almost the way you would structure some specific points. So this is a good way for people to be involved in testing. And for me as developer, I can also extract those information to improve my test and the quality of the API I'm building for the next time. So yeah, Postman is great. You should use it. And I'm not working for them. But it's a great tool to provide an interface between the business and the engineering team just to work together on API. So that's always a perfect tool, or at least a really great tool to work on it. So that's all for me for today. The main idea, build API. API are great. It allows interconnection between people. But now we need to find good ways to involve everyone around API and how to build that. So yeah, please, thank you for listening to me, and just build the best API you can. That's always the best part. Thank you so much.